Hello everyone, this is Polymorphic. Welcome back. This is the second video in the tutorial series, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how we can set up our new library and our new script folder for this tutorial video, and we're going to get into more of the actual fundamentals of programming and scripting. So we're going to start talking about more about Java types and arithmetic operators and comments, classes, and maybe some bit more about methods. Okay, so to start off, we're going to have to create our new library. We're going to create a new directory in our libraries directory, and we're going to call this Nexus. You can call it whatever you want. I'm calling it Nexus because I like that name. And then I'm going to include it in our settings.gradle file, which is in the root directory of the template, which is right here. And we'll include it. So to do that, you just basically follow along from what is already here. And then once you're done, make sure to load the Gradle changes or do Gradle refresh. And there we have it. It should show up, should be highlighted. So now we have to right click on it and create new directory, source, new directory, package, scripts. Now, if we ever want to add a new class, we can just right click on scripts and do new Java class. Okay, so now we're going to create our new script. So our script's going to be about data types primarily. So we'll create a new script called Datatype script. So to do that, right click on the scripts folder, new directory, and we'll call it datatypes hyphen script. Alright, so now we'll include that in here. We'll do that. Scripts colon datatype script. And then we'll just load the changes. Okay, so now that we have successfully added that, we'll right click on it, new, and then we'll directory, source, and then we'll add another one at source called scripts. Alright, and now we'll physically create our script, a Java class, data type script, capitalize like so. Okay. Alright, there we go. Okay, so now if we right click on data types hyphen script, the folder itself, and create a new build.gradle file. So we new, and we'll do file, and we'll call it build.gradle.kts. Okay, so the reason why we're creating this file is so that we can hook or link our libraries that we want to use with this script. So to do that, you type in dependencies and open up with a curly brace, and we'll type in implementation, and then inside of that we'll type in project with our parentheses as well, and then we'll just say colon, and then we'll go with libraries, and then colon again, and then we'll put in the library we just created, Nexus, and we'll just load those changes. Alright, perfect. So we have set up our directory correctly here. We got all of our files and scripts set up, and we're ready to go with the tutorial. Alright, so we'll close out those files, and here we have our class file. So like before in the last video, we have to implement the Tribot script so that it's recognized by Tribot, that it's an actual script file that it can execute. So to do that, we'll type in implements and Tribot script. And you'll notice that it's complaining here. It's got an error message saying that the class needs to implement the method execute. So we'll do that. So we'll go ahead and click on implement methods. It's basically a contract between this class and the Tribot script interface saying that, hey, if you want to be a Tribot script, you have to implement these methods. So we'll do that. Let's just click on execute for now. Configure doesn't mean much right now, but if you want to, we'll implement. Well, we'll do both. So by default, there's already some configuration that is instantiated by Tribot itself, but we can customize that. So we'll notice that we got two methods here, and we're gonna start talking more about comments and data types. But before we already did talk about a little bit about methods before. A method is basically some sort of behavior of a class, and classes are, you can think of a class as like a blueprint for an object. So Java is object oriented, meaning that you can instantiate classes and invoke their methods that require an object. And an object can also have instance variables. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you think of object-oriented, always think of classes, and those classes have state and behavior, methods, and instance variables. So like I said at the start, we're going to talk more about data types and instance variables. All right, let's start talking about comments. So a comment is ignored by the compiler and is used to help programmers and coders understand what code is doing. We have three different types of comments. We have a single line comment like so, and we have a multiple line comment, and we also have a Java doc comment, which is primarily used for methods and classes. This method already has a Java doc comment, so whoever worked on the SDK provided a Java doc comment for the execute method. So they're really useful. You'd probably want to use comments as much as you possibly can if you're just starting out and learning. They're also used. The Java doc comments are also used for the actual Java doc creation, so that when you're looking at Java docs, you can look at the comments and understand what methods are doing classes. Okay, so I'm going to delete that, and you'll notice that there's some white space here. You can have as much as white space as you want as possible, because the compiler actually ignores all this white space, so you can include as much as white space as you need. Okay, so let's start talking about data types. So Java has some built-in data types. So we'll start off with the very first one called boolean. Okay, so what I just wrote here is I did I did a few things here. So first I declared a type for my variable, which is type boolean, and then an identifier. So an identifier is a name. Usually it begins with lowercase, like for the first word, the letter in that word is going to be lowercase, and then the consecutive words that come after, the very first letter is going to be capitalized. Now this is called Pascal. Okay, this is called Pascal case. So now, what I did afterwards is I used the assignment operator. Now the assignment operator is used to assign a value to a variable. So I'm assigning this false value to my Boolean variable. And this semicolon at the end is basically saying terminate. So I'm terminating this statement right here. So this is it. If I didn't, I'd get an error. So what this is doing is I'm creating a variable and I'm assigning a value to it. So so booleans can contain true or false, and the size of a boolean can only be 16 bits. I mean, sorry, not 16 bits, 1 bit. Okay, so now we'll start talking about our other data types. So we have textual data types. So we have a data type called char, which basically holds a character, which is usually a Unicode character, and we assign that with a single quote, like so. And you can include any character like B or D. It can't contain more than one character. And then we have our string data type. Well, what's that? Well, a string just consists of a bunch of characters, and it can be implicitly instantiated like the character class or char class. So, but to do that, you need to use double quotes like so, like this. So you're implicitly instantiating a string class by using or creating a string literal, because we're literally creating the string. Also, they are immutable, and we'll learn more about that later on. Okay, so now we have our integral type. So we have a byte type. A byte can hold 8 bits. So we'll call it my byte, and we'll assign that to 1. Okay, so you'll notice that when you start coding, you'll see that there's negative numbers. So yes, so the integral data types are signed. So there can be negative and there can be positive types. And the short type can hold 16 bits. And then we have another type called int, or integer, and it can hold 32 bits. And we have a long type, and it can hold 64 bits. Okay, so now we'll get into our floating type. So we have double, and it can use irrational numbers with decimal points. And same with float, except the float can only hold 32 bits, whereas a double can hold 64 bits. Okay, so here are all of our types, and I'm just going to print some of these to the console so that when we run our code, we can see that we're printing. Okay, so when I say my char, we can print the actual character to there. But what happens when I include a string literal? Like so, like this, and then space, and then a plus sign. So we'll get into the arithmetic operators later, but when I say string type plus my char, we're concatenating these variables into one string. So we're concatenating the string literal that I have right here with the char variable, my char, which is C. So it should print out the letter C. And you don't normally print out booleans, but you can print out everything else like so, like log.debug, and say my or byte value colon space plus my byte, and it's going to print out the actual byte value 1, because we're concatenating the values into one string. But if you were to use two numbers, we'll say like log.debug, and we'll say let's just let's just say the values of my int plus my long is equal to this. So we'll say my int plus my long. Okay, so now what we're doing here is we're going to actually add some parentheses around this so that it's easier to understand. So when I highlight over this, it's saying that my int is equal to 32 and my long is equal to 64. So now when this is called, when we run this code, it's not going to concatenate the values. It's going to do addition. It's going to add those two numbers up and then display it to the console. Okay? So that's very important that you understand the differences between concatenation and addition. Depending on the context, they're case sensitive, depending on what you're doing. It's important that you understand how you're using the operator, the concatenation operator, or the actual addition operator. It depends on what you're doing. Okay, so actually, before we run this code, I just wanted to demonstrate an instance variable. So an instance variable is a variable like so, like one of these variables inside of this execute method that belongs to a class. So how do you do that? So we'll go ahead and we'll just cut and paste that variable up here. And you can see that now it belongs to this class. So now the scope is global. So now I can call it in here. Now I can print log.debug my bool there, and I can also do it here. But we're actually not going to print out this boolean value because you normally don't print out boolean values. So I'll delete that, and I'll delete that here. All right. So now we're actually going to compile our script, and we're going to run it and see what happens. So let's compile it. And once it's done compiling, we'll run it. So we'll go ahead, open up our Tribot, hit start script, and I'll click on no account. I don't have any manifest right now. I didn't create a manifest up here. I should though. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do that first. So we're gonna create our Tribot script manifest, like or how I showed you. And the author is going to just type in your name. You can do whatever you want. Name is, and then description. We'll just say local, or we'll say Datatypes script. And what else is there? Well, actually, let's go ahead and take a look at our other script category. So there's name and category. Name of the script is going to be Datatypes script, and what was it for the category? There's no category. You can just say schools for now. All right, and compile that. Don't have this memorized, but good thing because we can look at our other scripts from before and we can remember without having to memorize every little detail. Okay, so now that's compiled, I'll go ahead and start the script again, and we'll run it and we'll see what happens. All right, so printed out the values. So we'll take a look at the code again. So char value C, which is correct, byte value 1, the values of my int plus my long is equal to 96, which is correct. Okay, so that's going to be it for this video. In the next video, we'll be talking more about methods. We'll be talking more about arithmetic operators, and we might get into control flow depending on how everything goes. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next week or whenever I make this next video.